Okay, so I did 13 of these speeches last year, which I never thought I would ever be able to do. And I have to tell you guys, I get nervous for every single one, but this one makes me extra nervous, and I'll tell you why. Because my journey as a survivor began at the downtown relay. This is so personal to me. This event literally changed my life. I would not be standing here right now if I hadn't gone to my first relay in downtown. I know that word has redefined itself over the years for me, and I'd just like you to think about what that word means to you. According to the American Cancer Society, they define a survivor as anyone who's ever heard the words, "you have cancer." Pretty simple, right? Well, those are 3 words I certainly never thought I would hear in my lifetime. I'll take you back to the summer of 2008. I had been living in San Diego for about 2 years. I had a good job. Life was good. I was about to turn 30. My parents were visiting from St. Louis for the US Open, and I'm sure most of you guys remember when that was at Torrey Pines. It was a really exciting time in San Diego, and Tiger Woods was in his prime. It was kind of the hype of the week, until I had what I call my record player stopping moment. My mom, I was at my parents' hotel, and my mom from across the room. How many moms are in the room, first of all? I just want to get a show of hands. A lot. Okay, thank you guys. Because you have some kind of instinct in you that my mom has, thankfully. And she looked at me from across the room, and she pointed at my leg, and she said, "What is that, and how long has that been there?" And I looked down, and I somehow knew what she was talking about. I had a black freckle on my left calf, and I told her I didn't know how long it had been there. I wasn't really worried about it. And I have to tell you guys, for any of you that know my mom, you know that she is calm all the time. She's one of those moms that nothing ever phases her. She keeps the family together when we're all stressed out. But for some reason, that freckle really made her nervous, and it really gave her a bad feeling. And she wouldn't leave me alone about it all weekend. She kept saying, "Promise me you will get it looked at, promise me." So of course I said yes, because you have to listen to your mom. And I still had my 30th birthday party coming up and a vacation planned and other things that I was going to do first because I wasn't worried about it. But on July 11th, I went to my doctor, told him the story, showed him the freckle, and he too thought it was nothing. He and I kind of laughed about it actually and thought, it's probably nothing, but if it'll make your mom feel better, we can biopsy it. Okay, fine. So he biopsied it, sent me on my way. For any of you that have ever had any tests run, whether it's cancer or not, you know that they always tell you, no news is good news, right? If you don't hear from us, you're good to go. Well, not necessarily in my case. 12 days later, I still hadn't heard anything from them, and my mom called me and said, "I want an answer. I want to know that everything is okay." So I got home from work that day, and I was still sitting in my car, I remember, in the alley in my PB apartment, and I made the call to the doctor's office, and that's when I heard the 3 words that would change my life forever. "You have cancer." The next 30 seconds or so was a complete blur to me. I still don't remember what I did or said, but once I realized what was going on, I realized I have to make the hardest phone call in my life, which was to my parents. So I called them up, my mom answered, and not only did I have to say, "Mom, you were right," and I was wrong, which, it was never fun to do, but I actually had to say, "Mom, Dad, it turns out that I have cancer." The next week was a complete blur. It was a whirlwind of emotions, crying, sleepless nights. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what this meant for me. I was scared to death. Went to my first oncology appointment. For anyone here that's ever been to an oncology appointment, whether you're the patient or whether you're a caregiver and you're there with your family member or your friend, you know that is one of the most humbling places to be. Especially I was 30, I was the youngest person in the waiting room. I felt really out of place. And again, I was scared to death. And I was angry, actually. Then I started to get angry. I was mad at the world, I just turned 30. This is supposed to be the prime of my life, and yet I'm sitting down with an oncologist today to talk about surgery and talk about what my future is going to hold. And this isn't fair. And then I got mad at myself because I thought, maybe I did this to myself. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I wasn't careful enough growing up in the sun. And all the emotions and the cloud that forms in your head, it's crazy. So I'm going to fast forward 2 years now to the summer of 2010. And I was actually still really scared. I was even more paranoid than I was 2 years prior. And I was still angry. I was in a very dark place in my life. And I was really struggling to make sense of all of it. I was struggling to fit back into a normal life of a now 32-year-old. And I didn't know anybody at the time, I do now, but I didn't at the time know anybody close to my age who had ever had cancer. The only person I'd ever known was my grandpa, who had passed away when I was in high school. And that was my experience with cancer. So this was so foreign to me. And although my family and friends, who I actually was brave enough to tell about my story at the time, were very supportive of me, I just didn't feel like anybody understood me. And it's one thing to have support, but it's another thing to feel understood. And because when the doctor tells you, you're fine, you're good, go home, move on with your life, that's kind of what everybody else does. But when you're the person who's dealing with the cancer, it's hard to just move on. It's hard to redefine yourself in a way. And I was really struggling with that. And I was coming up on my 2-year cancerversary, as a lot of us like to call them. And I realized, you know what, this has to stop. I can't keep living this way. I'm unhappy. I'm bitter at the world. I need to do something to give back. I need to fight back. I need to help people, and maybe that will help me. I hadn't volunteered for anything in a while, and I thought, maybe this is the secret. Maybe this is what I need to do. So I ended up on the American Cancer Society website, cancer.org, and as Michelle said, I literally stumbled upon Relay for Life. I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was all about, but I am so glad I happened to end up on the Downtown Relay website. And exactly. It was 6 weeks away, and I thought, I can do this. So I signed up as a team captain. I grabbed about 8 or 10 friends. I even had shirts made. I didn't know what I was doing, but I raised a little bit of money, and 6 weeks later, we were at the relay. For any of you that have been to our downtown relay, you know the beautiful space that we have. I remember walking up and being like, wow, this is incredible. And I checked in at registration, and they said, oh, according to this list, you're a survivor, so you need to go to the survivor tent and get your shirt. And at the time, I didn't really understand how they knew that. I come to realize now when you register for relay, they ask you if you've ever had cancer, and of course I had indicated that I did. But when I went to that survivor tent, I will never forget the woman, and I wish I knew her so I could thank her now, but who was volunteering there. And she said, Kristen, congratulations. And she handed me my survivor shirt. And I kind of laughed, and I said, well, thank you, but I only had melanoma, and I'm okay now. And she was like, yeah, but did you hear the words, you have cancer? And I said, yes. And she said, well, then just like me and everyone else here in the survivor shirts, we all heard those words. You're a survivor, you're one of us. Enjoy this day. This is about celebrating us. This is why we're here. Be proud of that and go have fun. It's amazing. The minute you put that shirt on, you become part of something. And I will never forget my first survivor lap at the downtown relay. I had total strangers high-fiving me along the track, and people are cheering and clapping, and it was kind of surreal. Again, this was so new to me. I didn't understand that this was what it was all about. I didn't think of myself that way, and yet throughout the day, as I spent my day at the relay with my friends and meeting other veteran committee members like Stacy, who welcomed me there because I was a survivor and wanted to talk and hear my story, I realized that it wasn't about anyone's story, but it was about the fact that we'd all heard those same 3 words. And I didn't know anybody's story, and they didn't know mine, but they welcomed me, they treated me like part of a family. And by the time the night came and the Luminaria ceremony was in effect, I think I was starting to get it. I was starting to get more emotional. We were walking the silent lap with the Luminaria bags, and much to my surprise, I came up on a section of bags that all had my name on them. I had no idea where they came from. It turns out that a couple of them actually were from my parents. They had gone online from St. Louis and dedicated Luminaria bags to me, and I still have them. I was blown away. The friends that were there with me that day had made bags in my honor as well. Had no idea. I was completely surprised. I literally had to step away from the track for a minute because I was so overcome with emotion. I went and sat on a rock and I looked out at San Diego Bay and the Coronado Bridge and this beautiful setting, and I cried my eyes out because I think I finally got it. Like this is what I was supposed to find. This is what I was supposed to be doing. The last 2 years of feeling so lost, I was a complete lost soul, feeling like nobody understood me, feeling like I was never going to come out of this dark cloud that I was in, and yet here I am in a place with people one day. It hadn't even been 24 hours yet, and yet I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. I felt like people understood me. I was fortunate that night to share a campfire and make s'mores with who I found out later were the key players on our committee. So when the morning came, I was so charged and ready to go, and I'm so thankful they saw something in me and they scooped me up and they said, we want you to be a part of our committee next year. That was really the catalyst for me being able to not only stand up here in front of all of you and share my story, but it was the beginning of, I call my second life in San Diego, because the last almost 6 years have been some of the best and some of the hardest in my life. And ever since that first relay downtown, I've completely changed, and I will say, Nate talked about the 3 pillars of relay: celebrate, remember, and fight back. Relay has taught me that my story is worthy of celebrating, and it's taught me that being a survivor means family, and it means compassion, it means fighting, and it's given me a mechanism for remembering. Sadly, my team name, Team Chazzy, is named after a good friend of mine, Carissa, who passed away 2 years ago from brain cancer. She would have been 39 on Saturday, and we relayed with her for 2 years, and now we relay in her honor and in honor of all the survivors that are a part of our family here in San Diego. And it means the world to me to be able to do that and to be able to carry her story on and to be able to tell her story to people who never had the chance to meet her. And with Fight Back, I have to say, most of us aren't in research. Unfortunately, right? I mean, I work in marketing. I'm not going to be the one that's going to cure cancer. I'm not going to be the one to receive an amazing grant from ACS to find a cure. But Relay has taught me how to fight back. They've taught me how to fundraise, how to take a stand, how to bring people together and spread awareness and provide spirit to people that may not have it. And it's a group effort. It's the research, but it's also all of us coming together to make this happen. I will be celebrating my 6-year cancerversary on August 1st, the weekend before Relay. Thank you. I'm so proud of that. I cannot wait to walk that survivor lap. I can't wait to participate in the Fight Back activities and dedicate luminarias to the friends that I've lost. I've lost 6 friends just this year to cancer, and it's only April 29th. People ask me all the time, Kristen, how do you have time for all this? Do you sleep? I'm like, not much, but I tell you what, it's not about having the time. It's about the fact that this continues to happen and we have to stop it. And if that means I have a few sleepless nights because I'm able to fight back and raise money and help the cause, it's well worth it. As one of my very good survivor friends always says, that being a survivor is a club that nobody wants to be a part of, but once you're in it, it's an amazingly beautiful thing. And I've met some of my best friends through this community. But I will say that I would be really happy to not see any more, because I don't want anybody else to hear the words, "You have cancer." And if you guys will join us on August 9th to relay, to fundraise, to fight back, this year's theme is Finish the Fight, and I sure as hell am ready to finish the fight in San Diego if you guys are. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.